Hi, friends. I'm back. And if you're new here, my name is Brienne, and this is Creative Birthright. Okay, today I want to talk about something that I think a lot of us deal with: how hard it is to keep your creative practice going while working full time and dealing with all the craziness that life brings. And I'll be honest, I'm still figuring this out for myself. This life of prioritizing my creativity, of being a creative who works a 9 to 5, but has all of these fulfilling and fun and exciting creative projects that I'm not monetizing. And right now, I just want to explore what it looks like to do creative projects for the sake of it, to make art for art's sake. And one thing I've been doing to get there is giving myself grace, but also holding myself accountable, both at the same time, and really having tough conversations with myself when I need that motivation, that extra push to just do what needs to be done and move things forward. And also when I need to pull the trigger on something, step out on faith and do it, and be okay if it's not perfect. That's what this video is about. So let's hop into it. I've been doing a lot of reflection as I gear up to get back into the swing of things in my creative life. And one thing that creates stagnation in my creative practice is what I call perfection paralysis. I don't want to move forward until I've already planned it out perfectly, both in my mind and on paper. Until I feel like I'm prepared, like I have everything lined up and I'm ready to execute. And I have a supervisor who used to say this thing that has come back up for me and has helped me get over this perfection paralysis thing. So shout out to you, Abby, if you're watching this. But she would say, don't let perfection be the enemy of done. Basically, don't let perfection get in the way of actually doing the thing you're supposed to do. And that's something I have run into often. For example, I have been talking about putting together a self taught curriculum for 6 months. 6 months. I finally did it. I finally pulled the trigger on it. I had kept giving myself start dates, like I'm going to start on X date. And then the day would come and I would think to myself, oh, I'm not ready. So I wouldn't start. And this time around, on a random Monday, I said, today I'm sitting down and I'm starting this self taught creative writing course. Today's the day. So I just started. And in starting, I realized there were a few steps that I still needed to do to really dive in. But that day, I did those things. I organized my folders, I set up the file structure, I ordered the books that I would need for the next year. And for that first week, it was really just quote unquote prep work and orientation. I did get started on like the second day, but a lot of it was me organizing myself and getting acquainted with the material. And in starting, I realized, yeah, that's how it was supposed to go. Because when you start a new course, you usually spend the first week or so getting acquainted with the course material. So I had procrastinated and stopped myself because I wanted to reach this idea of perfect when I actually had everything I needed to get started already. So by just stepping out and doing the thing, all of a sudden, something I had been building up to, putting off, procrastinating on while being paralyzed because I'm like, okay, it's not perfect. How am I going to do this? Now I'm doing it. So sometimes you just have to step out on faith and do it. Do it scared, do it half prepared. And that doing it half prepared thing, it really scares me because one thing I constantly heard growing up was don't do anything half assed. So I have been trying to do everything with my whole ass, but then doing nothing. So I say that to say it's okay if it's not perfect. Just make sure you do it because every time you show up, you'll get better at showing up for yourself. And that's really how you fall back into a habit you've fallen out of it, by simply coming back to it. And that brings me to something I've had to reframe for myself. What consistency actually looks like. Because if I'm being honest, some weeks I'm gonna fall off, and that's just a fact of life. I'll use my strength training as an example. My goal is to work out 3 times a week. Sometimes I do it once a week, some weeks twice, some weeks I hit the 3-time mark. And when I look back over the calendar, because the app I use to work out tracks my workouts, I see that most weeks I hit my goal. And the weeks that I don't, I'm still consistently exercising on a weekly basis. And the more times I do it, the easier it is for me to get into the rhythm of doing it consistently and hitting my 3-day-a-week goal. For my creative practice, I might not write every single day, but if when I look back in a month, I've written every week, every 3 days, every 4 days, that itself is consistency. Consistency doesn't have to look like doing the thing every single day at the same time. Consistency is that even if you fall off, you come back to it, you return. And I'm just embracing that in my creative practice and not having any shame around it. It's okay if I miss a day. It's okay if something happens and throws my day out of whack and I can't sit down and write that evening because I know I'm going to come back to my desk and I'm going to write again. I know I'm always going to return. And then knowing that I'm going to return has allowed me to release any and all shame around missing a day. But you might be thinking, who's shaming you? Right? It was me. I was shaming myself. It's this idea of needing to be perfect. I feel bad when I miss the mark, and sometimes I put more on myself than what I actually realistically should. I might sit down at the beginning of the week and say, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z this week, and I'm going to start writing at 7. I'm going to end work at 5, do my workout between 5 to 7, and eat dinner, and then start writing at 7. Some days things get pushed back. I don't actually end work when I say I want to end work because something happens. And then everything gets thrown out of whack and I miss the mark. So it still ties back to this need to feel perfect, to show up, to do everything right. And when I don't do that, I realize I was feeling shame around it. And there's probably something deeper there I can unpack emotionally. But what I've realized is that emotion that comes up for me when I don't do it, when I quote unquote miss the mark, is shame. And that shame can then turn into an obstacle for me to return to my creative practice because I want to avoid that feeling. And I heard someone say this. I forget exactly who, but actually, two people are coming to mind who said this. But basically, it's just about being your own wise counsel. And talking to myself is how I counsel myself, give myself advice, reason things through. As I was gearing up to get back into my creative practice, I had a couple of counseling sessions with myself, if you will, and I reflected on what is keeping me from it. And that's how I came up with okay, the thing I'm feeling is shame because I'm not doing the thing I said I would do. And those emotions that come up block me from doing that. And I just get stuck. And now I can say, okay, let me address this emotion. Let me accept that it's okay and give myself permission. And I sat with myself and I outlined all of the reasons why I cannot show up for my creative practice in the way that I planned every single day and every single week. And now that I've explained it to myself, that shame, it just doesn't make any sense to feel anymore because a lot of times there are things outside of my control that stop me from being able to do the thing I said I would do. And that's okay. So I'm curious, what keeps you from coming back to your creative practice? What keeps you from doing the things you said you would do? If you don't have an answer now, that's okay. Do some reflection on that if you find yourself in a similar situation as me, and look inside and see what emotions are coming up, what blockers are internal and what are external. And a lot of things that keep us from our creative practice are tied to external things outside of our control. And I just had to make peace with them. And I'm able to release the shame I was feeling because I had to recognize that. For example, my energy levels go up and down throughout the month, throughout the year. My ability to focus and prioritize my creative practice changes largely based on factors outside of my control. Like, I have to work a full time job right now, and that takes a lot of my energy. I have responsibilities that cause me to use my creative energy outside of my creative practice. And I would be lying if I didn't admit that that impacts how I show up for all of my projects, how I show up to my writing practice. And that's something that's completely out of my control. And as much as I want to make this the biggest priority in my life, realistically, I cannot always do that. And I know the life I want to live, I'm working towards that, but I have to deal with my present reality. So, in recognizing that and in pinpointing the problem and saying, hey, my energy is going to change throughout the month because of work, because of reproductive hormones, and all the things that change in life, there's just a myriad of factors that impact my ability to show up for my creative practice every day. And sometimes I have to show up for myself first, and that is okay. Making those trade offs in the moment and identifying what I can do to move this forward is what has been keeping me both sane and consistent. And here's something I just realized. There are so many things in life that force us outside of our natural rhythms. I was taught, like many of us, that you just tell your body when it does things. You wake up at this time, you eat at this time, you go to sleep at this time. But it really should be the other way around. Your body tells you when it needs to wake up, when it needs to go to sleep, when it's hungry, when it needs water, when it needs rest. But we spent our whole lives ignoring those natural cues. And I applied that to my creative practice. Like, I would sit down and say, okay, I'm going to dictate when I create, when I brainstorm, when I dream, and I'm going to time box it and give it a deadline. And it just doesn't work that way. So instead, here's what I do now. When I have low energy, that's not time for action. That's time for me to plan and plot and dream and ideate. And I have a ton of voice notes that I've left for myself just talking about video ideas, book ideas. I'll just have a line and I'll say, start this novel with this line. And that's it. That's the whole voice note. Or I'll have an idea for something that I want to make with my hands and I'll put it into my voice note so I don't lose it in the moment where I have low energy and I know I can't put it into action. So now, when I'm ready, when I have energy for action, I can just go back and pick whichever of those ideas is calling to me. And usually, there's an idea that really wants to be birthed. It's going to
Outline.
keep coming back to me because it just needs to be in the world and it won't let me forget it. So, because I've already thought of the idea, it makes it so much easier to take action when I have the energy. And what I'm learning is it's really about getting in sync with the cycle of your creative practice. What is the rhythm of your creativity? Map it out. When do you naturally focus on output and producing? When are you dreaming, exploring? When are you going out and being inspired, being present in the moment, gathering story ideas and experiences and perspectives that will later become your art? Because if you pay attention to your natural rhythms, your body, your life, that inner part that is your wise counsel, it will tell you when those things should happen and it will come naturally. It will be easy. You won't feel the need to push yourself. And I'm not saying that the making of the art will be easy, but the showing up to do it will come naturally. And that's another thing I realize. I get into these ruts because I try to force myself and push myself to do something outside of its season. Then I go into a shame spiral because I didn't do the thing that I said I would do, but I shouldn't have been trying to do it in the first place. I was setting myself up for failure by doing things outside of their season. And this came up a lot for me this past winter. I was trying to push myself to do work and I realized, hey, this is a season where I should be resting. The rest of the world, the natural world at least, is resting. So should I. Well, I stepped back and I said, hey, it's okay. This is a time when I need to be reflecting. I need to be incubating ideas and also finding inspiration as it comes. Next, I want to talk about metrics of success. And I'm taking mine and making them less output focused, less number of words written, and more about finding the harmony between my natural rhythms and my creative practice. I'm in a space right now where I don't have deadlines, only the ones I make for myself. I'm not submitting anything to a publisher yet. I don't have something for a client yet. So why would I put a strict deadline on it? Yes, timelines and timeframes are helpful for moving forward, but I create the timeline. I've stopped letting time like exist outside of me and be this weird taskmaster. And I'm starting to learn how to just work with it and go with the flow. And I haven't had a full year fully embracing this yet. But after I get to a full year, then I can really map it out and like step back and see the cycle of my natural creative practice. And I'm going to sit down at the end of the year and say, okay, when am I naturally focused on output? When am I producing? When am I dreaming and exploring? When am I going out and being inspired and gathering experiences? And when am I resting? That's the map I'm building. That's kind of how I'm going to be capturing my creative practice in its natural rhythm. This conversation is no longer about falling out of my creative practice. It's about recognizing where I am in the season of my creative practice and honoring that. The next thing I want to talk about is sometimes you just have to make yourself do the thing. Even when you're in the right season of whatever it is you're trying to do, sometimes you just have to force yourself to do it. Give yourself grace, of course, but hold yourself accountable. Do what you can when you can and be okay with it. Knowing that progress is happening, even if it's not happening in the way you planned it, it's still happening. And I'm talking to myself as I'm saying that, because that's something I have to keep reminding myself to move forward even when I don't feel ready. So some days I plan to do something and the day comes and I can't do it. But that doesn't mean I can't make progress towards completing it. Take the filming of this video, for example. It has been pushed back because when the day came that I planned to film it, I had allergies and my head was feeling cloudy, my face was a little puffy, and I just did not feel like it. And past Brienne would have seen this as a failure, but instead I identified what I could do based on the present reality I had that moved me closer to the goal of recording the video. So I reviewed my outline. I tested out my setup because I'm filming with a new camera. And then this made it much easier for me to record once I was no longer dealing with allergies. And I'm being grateful for the lessons that come when I do something and I realize I'm not good at it yet. Malcolm, I'm recording. I know you want to cuddle, but can you give me like 10 minutes? Okay, give me 10. Give me 10. Give me 10. And even if you're not good at it, that's okay because you're learning and you're having an experience. And I think a big part of the experience when you're a creator is the act of making, the act of doing, what you learn about yourself in the process, what you learn about your craft in the world around you, how your perspective can shift in the process of bringing something into life. I'm sharing all of this as a sort of an example of how I have come back to my creative practice after a little hiatus. It could and most likely will look completely differently for you. Your blockers might be different, your rhythms might be different, your seasons might look nothing like mine. But if any of this resonates, maybe try sitting with yourself. Like just you, no pressure, no agenda, no to do list. For me, talking to myself, being my own wise counsel, maybe that might sound weird, but I promise it's not as weird as you think. And a lot of us do it. So maybe you're listening like, hey, I do that too. But, anyways, that's how I figured out what exactly was going on. And that's how I realized that the thing I was feeling was shame. That's how I traced it back to perfectionism. And that's how I actually started to work with my creative practice and its natural rhythm and not against it. So, if you want to try this for yourself, maybe just start there. Just get quiet. Ask yourself, what's actually going on? What am I feeling when I think about going back to it? And then maybe when you have some more energy, pay attention to what it looks like across a few weeks. When do you naturally want to create? When do you want to dream? Or when do you dream? What are you doing the moment that an idea hits you? For me, it happens a lot when I'm on my way to bed or when I'm on a walk. So I make sure I can capture those ideas because I know it's going to come. And I don't have it all figured out. I haven't even had a full year of embracing this yet, but even just starting to pay attention has made such a difference for me. And I really think it could for you too. Honestly, I think a big part of why this even matters to me, why I'm so committed to figuring this out, is because I really do want to make art for the sake of art. I want to tell stories because those stories have been on my heart to be told. There are characters that are dying to be born that just live in a voice note right now, but want to live on a page. And right now, I want to create just to create, to explore. And I think that's something a lot of us have had taken, this idea that you can just make something because it matters to you. But that's a whole other conversation. We will get into that later. But thank you for watching to the end. If you got anything from this video, be sure to like, comment down below what you're taking away, and hit the subscribe button on your way out so we can continue on this journey together. All right, I'll see you in the next one.